I'm here this morning with Lieutenant Frank Carter, who is a candidate for Chief of Police here in San Angelo, Texas. And I really do appreciate you taking your time today to share with me. I want to visit with you on a couple of issues. I know you're a candidate, but there's also some issues that are going on in our community that I find that are rather alarming. I had heard firsthand knowledge from somebody in law enforcement that we seriously have, I think you've talked about it before, gang issues going on here in San Angelo. In particular, what I was heard in a group of people was that we actually have a gang 7th, 8th, 9th graders, age-wise, that are going through our neighborhoods, yanking on door handles of cars to steal whatever's in there, but in particular guns, and that in fact they're actually packing guns as they're roaming our neighborhoods. Is this correct information?
Well, it is an increasing problem in our community gangs, and it is. The age that group that we're dealing with, they're anywhere from the ages of 13 and 20.
Wow.
Just a couple weeks ago, I saw a report. There's been 63 guns taken from vehicles since January. That's an alarming number.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of these guns, they're ended up in the hands of these youngsters, these gang members, and being used for criminal activity.
Such as?
Such as robberies, armed robberies, assaults, and could even be murder at some point in time. That's been my platform all along. We need to exercise zero tolerance against these gang members. We need to strengthen our gang unit and then send a message. These kids, adults, juveniles, whatever you want to call them, if they want to participate in this type of activity, we need to send a message. There are three alternatives. You either stop what you're doing, you move, or you suffer the consequences.
Absolutely. Well, it seemed like however many years ago that our gang activity had really dwindled and was under control. What has caused this sudden resurgence, in your opinion?
Sure, it goes in cycles. It does, and a lot of it has to do with new gangs forming, new juveniles or new individuals coming up that want to claim a name for themselves and form a membership. But yes, we're on the increase of gang activity right now. It's something we need to address as a police department, as a community, and I've said it all along since day one in my platform in NAACP, the last part of March. We need to strengthen the gang unit and enforce zero tolerance. Absolutely.
I know one of the other concerns that a lot of people have in the community is the ports to plane issue, where supposedly, we are targeted to be linked directly in. It's been in the process for a long time, but that too opens the door for more gang activity, more drug activity. Isn't that correct?
Sure. I don't have anything against ports of planes, free enterprise, business and everything. I do feel like, obviously, if you increase the traffic that's going through our community, you're going to have problems. And those problems could be anywhere from more vehicle accidents, drug trafficking, transient problems. Things of that nature, but it's just something that we need to prepare for, be looking at down the road. I don't think ports to planes is imminent. It's in the far background, if you will, before it's even considered completed, but it's just something down the road we need to prepare for.
What type of things would we do to prepare for that increased activity?
Well, obviously patrols, and it's just like our loop now. We call it the Autobahn. We need to have officers out there just about every day running radars, slow those speeders down. That's attributed to all the accidents in our community. That's the largest concern is safety for the community members.
Yeah, it seems like our wrecks, everything has escalated over the last few years. Initially, many of us were going, oh, it's the oil field.
Sure.
Well, the oil field's gone. It's still here, so maybe it wasn't the oil field.
Well, we've had an increase in population, of course, but by the same token, our wrecks have increased from 2010 to 2015, 10.5%. These officers, they're not being as aggressive as they can. I think there's more they can do. I think that they basically shut down, or they're going call to call. and they don't have time on their regular actually patrol duties to actually sit back or sit in the car and do radar.
Do you think we have enough patrolmen?
You know, that's something that I will fight for. That number was set a long time ago with City
Yes.
Council, our maximum number. And obviously, I mentioned it a while ago that our population has increased. That's something that I would fight for if elected. We do have to increase the numbers. I also know about taxes and everything else, and I want to hold that to a minimum for the citizens of San Angelo. But within the police department, but within the patrol division itself, we're operating on a 10-hour shift. That's less conducive that you can have for manpower. A lot of departments are going either back to an 8-hour or a 12-hour shift, and just by doing that, going to an 8 or a 12, you can increase the manpower with what you have.
Amazing. So would you reallocate the number of officers that are in, say, patrol or gang activity or the different areas?
Sure. There are some sections within the department, that are benefit if you have the manpower. But there are some sections that probably don't need that manpower and needs to be reallocated when you are shorthanded, and put those positions in areas that are most needed for the community and where your problems are. You have to adapt and overcome. And when I mention that, I speak of gangs and narcotics. Right now we have 3 narcotic officers. Drugs are an epidemic in this community, as well as in most all communities. But my focus would be our community and getting under control. That's the root of most all crimes, is drugs. Burglaries, assaults, thefts, all stem from narcotics. And gangs and narcotics intertwine. And we have to get a handle on it. I want to strengthen those 2 divisions, gangs and narcotics, and exercise zero tolerance.
What would be some of the first things you would do as chief?
Build a team. And with that in mind, I'm looking for a proven leader. Anybody can have the position or a title, but I want somebody that's a born leader. That's not something that you read in a book. The other thing is experience. And I think it's important that they have the same vision that I do and the same goals that I have in mind, not only for the department, but for the community.
One of the things that seems to have happened over the last few years is, oh my gosh, I can't imagine what the numbers would actually be. I remember Sergeant Corby Kennedy sharing with me a lot about how many officers or young people were coming through the academy.
Sure.
But the retention was just almost flatline. Very, very few were staying. They would come on and leave, and we have this void between brand new officers and those that have been with the police department 15, 20 years. There's this huge void in there. What has caused that void?
Well, our department we're very young. Another one of my platform issues is recruiting and retention. We need to focus on trying to recruit and retain, if you will, candidates from this area that actually have ties to San Angelo.
Yeah.
A lot of the folks that we have hired, they didn't have ties here. They went on to other communities, other places. Part of it is based on pay. We are increasing. We're in our 3rd step with the meet and confer in the city in our raise, so that's helping. I want to focus more on lateral transfers and not spending that money up front on a recruit, $50,000, $100,000 per recruit.
Yeah.
And you're correct. We've hired a lot of officers.
It's been amazing.
Between that 2 and 10-year range that we basically gave them the training. They went somewhere else, and it's costly.
And that,
like I said, 50 to 100,000.
And to me, that says something about our current leadership.
Sure.
That they didn't see a future here.
Sure.
And left. So there's other pieces to that puzzle.
If anybody studies management, one of the largest factors, I guess, is make a pleasing. An employee is not monetary. It's not money. It's up there in the top 5. But it's your boss, it's your leader.
That's right.
It's probably number 1, and it's how that employee perceives himself to be appreciated and being a part of the department. Case in point, with our lateral program now, you get a sign-on bonus for coming to work with the San Angelo Police Department. The SO deputies, they make a lot less money than we do.
SO being Sheriff's Office.
Sheriff's Office, they make less money than we do. I can count on one hand the number of Sheriff's Department deputies that have tried to laterally or got hired at the police department. So that tells you about management right there.
Yes, I think so. And also the other aspect is a lot of the officers have chosen, the senior officers that have been around for 20 plus years that still had a lot of years in them, have suddenly in the last few years there's been an incredible number of retirements. Does that lead back to the same thing, or what do you see going on in the department?
I think part of it is management and leadership. The other part of it is opportunity. And with the pay that they receive, they'll get a retirement check and of course be able to draw second income.
Yeah. What else in particular do you see that needs addressing with the police department?
Well, again, one of the major things is rebuilding the morale within the department. These officers are too policy driven. We give these guys guns on their side, and yet we create a policy for everything that they can do or can't do. And it's to the point where I think they've shut down. They're scared to do anything in fear of getting in trouble.
Yeah.
And I think that these are responsible adults, and policy needs to be a guideline, and they need to know that guideline where your boss or your manager, draws the line in the sand. But at the same token, we need to get back to police work and not be so policy driven. And I want to get back to be policing, if you will, back in the neighborhoods. I've taken a lot of heat for that. And sector style policing is the best thing there ever was. It may be in some cities. I've seen what works in San Angelo, and as far as right now, sector style policing is not what's working in San Angelo. Our crime is rising. I've talked to a number of citizens that have told me that, what can you do, Mr. Carter, to bring it back to the old days when the officer used to come by in the neighborhood and wave at the kids and stop and say hi. And by the same token, that officer knew when those vehicles were gone, when that resident was at work, and he knew when something was out of place. He got to know the neighborhood.
Right.
That's where the nicknames were created. I had several, and of course Lieutenant Mike Hernandez, we all did back then. And those nicknames weren't from the good people in that particular neighborhood. They were created by the criminals, if you will, in that particular area, and they knew that you were watching, you were coming, and they knew you.
Yeah, and they had respect for you because they did know you.
That's correct.
At all. So getting back into that neighborhood feel to really, as whoever expressed to you the way it used to be, it would seem today, because of our increased population, kind of going back where you were talking earlier, that that's going to require additional manpower.
Sure.
Have you had a chance to look at the budget any to see how things can be adjusted? This may be premature, you may not be privy to any of that, but where maybe more dollars could be spent on officers that maybe are being spent elsewhere.
Sure.
Unnecessarily.
I have not had the privilege to look at the budget. I do and hear complaints from City Hall about overextending ourselves as far as monies. As part of a leader or a manager, that's one of your core things to do is look at money allocation. And I'm sure there's some room there where you can move. There's some positions within the department now that are held by police supervisors with a salary of $65,000. I think those can be civilianized at 50 cents on a dollar. So that in itself brings those officers into these positions for help, if you will, while a civilian can take over.
How long would, in going into office, what time frame do you see as being a transition period of kind of getting things adapted and changed into the type of leadership you would like to give?
Sure. Some of it's imminent as far as building my management team. reallocating to personnel to different divisions, if you will. Some of that stuff will be imminent, but long term, any type of management plan like that is, probably 2 years.
Okay. What, for some of the voids in there where you're missing key people, or are there positions that you see that you're missing some key people, where would you look for them?
As far as recruiting or bringing in new personnel?
Either way, whatever.
Well, as far as narcotics, we've been working on our relationships on the federal and state level. And eventually, as far as helping in manpower in those particular areas, gangs and narcotics, is having an MOU, memo of understanding, or if you will, a task force. Those guys are, they've always been helpful in the past, and then they're willing to help now. So we've been behind the scenes talking to these folks on those different levels as far as bringing all of us together. And we all have the same mission. And policing is not some scientific thing. I mean, the basic mission of a policeman, or policing in general, preserve the peace and the life of somebody. It's not a difficult mission.
You're bringing up different agencies. There's several different agencies that work in our community here. Has that relationship been strained over the years? Is it something that needs some repair?
It is. Not so much on the line officer level. I mean, those guys are going to work and do their stuff. They interact quite often. On the upper levels, I believe there is some damage that's been done. There's some damage that needs to be fixed, if you will. And that's what I alluded to a while ago as far as going out there already and speaking with some of these other agency department heads, whether they be on the federal or the state level.
Yeah. One of the things that San Angelo in a lot of ways has been rather isolated from are things that are happening in our Metroplex or San Antonio, where they're seeing more and more terroristic type activities happening. We haven't really had, or to my knowledge, we really haven't had anything along that line in our community. Are we preparing, or are any of our officers getting training to understand what potentially could suddenly show up at our doorstep one day?
Sure. I mean, yeah, we live in small town San Angelo. It's not so small anymore. We continue to grow, but those guys, they see the videos, they see the TV, they see the news, they see what's going on around them. And policing is just not for police. I mean, as a citizen, we need to remain vigilant, keep our eyes open. Any one of those crimes or activities or catastrophic situation could happen in San Angelo, Texas. And, as far as us, the police department, we need to continue to build relationships with our community leaders, our churches, and community figures, if you will, and build that trust with these people. If something major does happen, we can call upon them and lean upon them and ask for their assistance.
Okay. Anything in particular, anything else come to mind that you would like to share?
No, not really. I'm ready for this to be over. It's been a new process for me, the first time to run for an elected office. It's been very long. Come July 2nd, it'll be about 5 months. So it's been an experience, to say the least, and I sit here in this chair basically only to make our city and our department a better place. And had I not felt like our department and our city was run and to my standards, I wouldn't be here. I'm certainly not no politician. What you see is what you get. I'm very straightforward. My actions speak louder than my words, but my intent is clear as far as what I want to do. Throughout my career of 24 years this October, 17 of which I've been a supervisor, and I've always been labeled by employees, by line officers, by supervisors underneath me as being fair and consistent. And I think that's very important to be a chief of police. One
thing that came to mind while you were speaking, you've talked to a lot of people in the community in these last 5 months. What are the citizens saying? What are you hearing that has motivated you and touched your heart as to what's needed?
Sure. And I have. That's probably the best part of the experience that I've had, is meeting so many people and getting views from a lot of the community leaders, a citizen in general. You know, that has kept me going. So Mr. Carter, you know, you've always done the right thing, just things of that nature. I've had people come out that I've arrested and haven't seen in years. And Mr. Carter, I couldn't thank you enough. You know, I was on the wrong side of the tracks at that time. You never disrespected me. You never put me lower than you. We were always on equal ground, and that's probably the best story that I ever had. And I think as an officer, if you can ever do that, you've achieved the definition of an officer. And I'm not talking about going out and arresting a PI or something minor. I'm talking about a career criminal. When that police officer arrests that person, and that arrestee tells you thank you and shakes your hand for taking him to jail, the police officer has done his job, and he's done it right.
I think that's a perfect spot to end. Thank you again so much for your time this morning. I really do appreciate it. And I too look forward to July the 2nd and the campaign coming to a successful conclusion.
Well, I appreciate you taking your time out and sitting down to speak with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.